Okay, we've got this ready. We've got that ready. We've got the little voices ready. Everything is cool here. All right, there we go. I really need to go to the grocery store today to get some more bread. I can't forget to call my mom because it's her birthday in a couple months and I don't want to miss it this time. Oh, hey guys. What's up?
What's up?
Sorry, you just caught me talking to myself. You ever do that? You ever talk to yourself? Apparently, it's very normal to talk to yourself.
Being caught talking to yourself can feel embarrassing.
Yes, it can.
And some people even stigmatize this behavior as a sign of mental instability.
Whoa.
But decades of psychology research show that talking to yourself is completely normal.
Thank goodness.
In fact, most, if not all of us, engage in some form of self-talk every single day. So, why do we talk to ourselves? And does what we say matter? Self-talk refers to the narration inside your head, sometimes called inner speech. It differs from mental imagery or recalling facts and figures. Specifically, psychologists define self-talk as verbalized thoughts directed toward yourself or some facet of your life. This includes personal conversations like, I need to work on my free throw. But it also includes reflections you have throughout the day, like, the gym's crowded tonight. I'll come back tomorrow. And while most self-talk in adults tends to be silent, speaking to yourself out loud also falls into this category.
Okay, cool. So it is normal to talk to yourself. That is a relief. I'm not weird. Well, I'm not weird for that reason. Self-talk is very normal. Most of the times it is an inner monologue. Sometimes it happens out loud. So if we're going to talk to ourselves, it is also important to think about how we talk to ourselves. What are the things that we say to ourselves? What are the things that we think about ourselves?
One thing we know for certain, however, is that what you say in these conversations can have real impacts on your attitude and performance. Engaging in self-talk that's instructional or motivational has been shown to increase focus, boost self-esteem, and help tackle everyday tasks. Just as chatting to a friend can help decrease stress, speaking directly to yourself may also help you regulate your emotions. Distanced self-talk is when you talk to yourself, as if in conversation with another person. So rather than, I'm gonna crush this exam, you might think, Caleb, you are prepared for this test. One study found that this kind of self-talk was especially beneficial for reducing stress when engaging in anxiety-inducing tasks, such as meeting new people or public speaking. But where positive self-talk can help you, negative self-talk can harm you. Most people are critical of themselves occasionally, but when this behavior gets too frequent or excessively negative, it can become toxic. High levels of negative self-talk are often predictive of anxiety in children and adults. And those who constantly blame themselves for their problems and ruminate on those situations typically experience more intense feelings of depression.
Okay, so there are positive ways to talk to ourselves, and there are also negative ways to talk to ourselves, just as though there are positive and negative ways to talk to other people. If, when you're talking to yourself, you are being positive and you're affirming yourself and you're being mindful, then your mood will be better, your self-perception and self-esteem will be better. Just like if you talk negatively to yourself, then eventually you're going to start believing those negative messages. So it's very important how we talk to ourselves. The way that you talk to yourself is an indicator of how you feel about yourself, whether you like yourself. And that's what we're getting into really today. We're still talking about healthy relationships, but today we're discussing our relationship with ourselves and how we can love and have compassion for ourselves and why that's so important. Loving yourself is important. You know, there's a reason why at the end of every video I say, be good to yourselves and others. Be good to yourself and others.
Be good to yourself and others.
Be good to yourself and others. Be good to yourself and others. Be good to yourself and others. Be good to yourself and others. Be good to yourself and others. Be good to yourself and others. And there's a reason that I put it in that order. Because before we can truly love others and be loved by others, we first have to figure out how to love ourselves. One of the best metaphors, and a very widely used one for this, is something that happens when you fly in a plane. If you've ever flown before, you know that they do the whole safety instructions before the flight takes off. And one of the things that they say is that if something happens with the plane and the oxygen masks come down from the ceiling, then you should put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping small children or others who may need your assistance. At first glance, this may seem selfish. If there are others that need help, why would you not help them first, right? But in the case of a depressurized airplane cabin, if you do not have a flow of oxygen to your mask, you may pass out and not be able to help others. You have to have a flow of oxygen. You have to be able to take care of yourself first before you're able to help those that may need it. Like this small child who, I don't know, man, something's weird about this little guy. He's definitely got like a mortgage and a secret family or something. Like, why does this kid have a polo on, huh? Why is he wearing a collared shirt? Does he have a meeting later? Anyway, that's the idea, is that you have to take care of yourself first before you can pour into others and help others, or love others, or be loved by others. And the reason that this is so important to talk about is that quite often we can get into the habit of talking very negatively to ourselves. And there are all sorts of possible reasons for that.
Where does this unconscious impulse to be unkind to ourselves come from? How is the choice to torture ourselves made? We can hazard another generalization. The way we treat ourselves is an internalization of the way others once treated us, either directly in the sense of how they spoke to us, or indirectly in the sense of how they behaved around us, which could have included ignoring us or openly displaying a preference for someone else. To get a measure of where we stand on the spectrum of self-love, we need only ask ourselves a very simple question that we have nevertheless ignored for far too long. How much do I like myself? If the answer immediately and intuitively comes back that we feel loathsome, there is a history that we urgently need to consider and are, conveniently for our self-torturing minds, choosing to ignore. The contempt we habitually show ourselves is in neither way fair nor right. We should spot the oddity and partiality of treating ourselves with a viciousness we wouldn't accord to our worst enemies.
Okay, so I know there's a lot of big SAT words on there, and
She's talking in a British accent.
but just to break down what she's saying, it is when we are young and impressionable that we receive certain messages from the world about our own worth and how much love we think we deserve. A lot of the times it has to do with how our parents treat us. Even if they are very kind, even if they are doing their best, they're still imperfect people and will make mistakes and sometimes say or do things when we're really young that sticks with us, and that will inform how we think about ourselves as we grow up. It's the same way with how we are treated by others outside of our family. These external messages get really deep into our brains, and if they are unkind messages, then that turns into negative self-talk, and then we start to believe that negative self-talk and start to feel very bad about ourselves. And that can determine how much we are able to give ourselves love. When we look in the mirror and think about ourselves and self-reflect, if all we see are negative things and that's the way we talk to ourselves, it's going to have a profound impact on our well-being. You know, you've heard of the golden rule, which is to treat others the way that you want to be treated. Another variation of this, and something to think about, is that we should also treat ourselves with the kindness that we would show others. If one of your friends is having a hard time or going through something, you are not going to talk negatively to that person. If you're a good friend, you want to be supportive of them, you want to listen to them. And a lot of the times folks are very good at being kind to others, but they have a hard time extending that kindness to themselves. It can seem sometimes really easy to look in the mirror or self-reflect and be negative to ourselves, but it gets a little harder if we think of ourselves as someone who deserves to be treated well, like we would treat a friend. If we think about ourselves more as a friend or objectively as a person who deserves to be taken care of, then we may not engage in so much negative self-talk, and we'll be able to see ourselves for who we really are, which is a human being who makes mistakes, but who is trying and who is always getting better and is deserving of love no matter how good or bad they are. So developing a good relationship with ourselves is important for our own well-being, but also for any future potential relationships that we might want to have, whether they are romantic relationships or friendships. How we love ourselves very much affects how we are able to accept love and love others.
One of the great and slightly strange dangers of falling in love with someone is how we may respond the day they start to love us back. Some of the reason we fall in love with people is because we long to escape from ourselves into the embrace of a person who appears as beautiful, perfect, and accomplished as we feel ourselves to be flawed, dumb, and mediocre. But what if such a being were one day to turn around and love us back? Nothing could discredit them faster. How could they be as divine as we'd hoped for when they have the bad taste to approve of someone like us? It turns out that one of the central requirements of a good relationship is a degree of affection for ourselves, built up over the years, largely in childhood. We need a legacy of being deserving of love in order not to respond very obtusely to the affections granted to us by adult partners. Without a decent amount of self-love, the love of another person will always prove sickening and misguided, and we will, self-destructively, though unconsciously, set out to repel or disappoint it. It will simply feel more normal and therefore comfortable to be disliked or ignored when that is mostly what we have known. If we're not wholly convinced of our own lovability, receiving affection can appear like being bestowed a prize for an accomplishment we don't feel we ever earned.
If you start to like someone, a lot of the times, if you are engaged in a negative self-talk or a negative self-perception, then whenever they actually start to like you back, you start to wonder what's wrong with them. If you don't like yourself very much, then you start to look at them and say, why do you like me so much? And you don't trust it, or you think they're stupid for liking you. So they say a central requirement of a good relationship with someone else is to first love ourselves and deal with some of that negative self-perception and that negative self-talk that we may have been taught since we were very young. If we can't love ourselves first, then we cannot truly accept the love of someone else when it comes along. Even though it is not a good thing, it is more comfortable for people that are used to a negative self-perception to push people away or to not accept love from others because they're just used to that. Without self-love and self-compassion, whenever someone gives us love or shows us love, we might think that we didn't deserve it. We might have this imposter syndrome, like we won something that we didn't earn.
But if self-love gains the upper hand, then both partners may accept that seeing their love reciprocated is not proof of how low the beloved is, but instead of how lovable they have themselves turned out to be.
So when self-love is present, then when you are with someone or when you're in a relationship of any kind with someone, then the love can grow and the connection can be authentic because you're not burdened with the thoughts that you're not good enough for this relationship. You love yourself enough, you are compassionate with yourself enough to where you can accept the love given to you by others. So it's in the spirit of self-love and learning self-love and self-compassion that we are going to do our next activity. This is brought to us by Miss Little's classes. And teachers in your box, you should have all gotten little slips of paper with little flowers on them. They're very small. Everyone should get at least one. And what you're going to do here is you're going to write something, a short word or a phrase that represents what you love about yourself. I want you to really think about it in context with what we've just learned about self-love. Think about how you think about yourself. And if your first thoughts are negative, pay attention to that and then keep thinking and think about what you like about yourself and focus on those things. Write those things on our little flowers, cut them out along the edges to where it, makes a little flower. Color them whatever color you want, and Miss Little's classes are going to come back around to gather those from your teachers and put them all on one beautiful self-compassion bouquet that everyone can see and hopefully get a little bit of joy from. And while you're cutting and coloring and writing, you can also, if you choose, have a discussion about any of these things. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you guys enjoy the activity and the discussion. And I hope you work to be good to yourself so that you can be good to others. I'll see you tomorrow.